I was like, because quality time's my favorite thing. I'm like, I want to spend time with you. So that was the thing that triggered me. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. And I have brought on my fabulous, darling girlfriend who occasionally is a pain in the side, but most of the time she's pretty much perfect. So we just wanted to have this podcast and have a bit of a chat with you guys, especially in regards to how we live our lives as couples and managing, like we both manage companies and entrepreneurs and how we do that together. Also how we communicate and just some tools around mindset and money and business growth, which I think would be like really entertaining. You've got a bunch of questions from people in your audience. So I think we're going to answer a couple of Chloe's questions first, and then whatever comes up, we're going to start getting into it. So
can we just do the how we met one first?
Okay, but firstly, thank you for coming on to the show.
Right.
Again, it's been a hot minute, so I'm excited to have you on.
The first one was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should have me on more. That should be a segment, bro. Okay, the first 100 questions I always get asked just about how we met, and longer story short, social media. I actually followed Corey first. He was on a podcast. He interviewed somebody that I knew on his podcast when he first moved to the Gold Coast, and from there I just followed him. But I was actually seeing someone else at the time, and he was also seeing someone else at the time too. But I just listening to him on the podcast, I was like, I've never heard somebody speak this way, like as a guy.
I don't think you were seeing someone at the time.
I was.
And I wasn't, because I wasn't seeing anyone at the time. Awkward.
Yeah, I swear it was. No. This is the same story I tell every single time.
No, because you'd finished with J-Word ages before.
Yeah, see, he had a J name. That's where I took the L.
That was quite a while before. Or maybe when you saw my podcast, you might have been seeing that.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, longest story short, doesn't even matter. We've started arguing already. This is a really good start. Yeah, so we just followed each other. Then he slid into my DMs, and I left him on red a couple times, and now we're here 2 years later.
Yeah, well, just to put that into perspective, because I teach a lot of men this, right? And a lot of guys have this goal for success and achievement. And one of the things that encapsulate that is having a partner. Like one of the reasons why they want to be successful and achieve so much is because that they, one thing we find out and set the standard is because they want to find, the one. And as a guy, your value increases if you are really confident. And most men find confidence through success, money, mindset, and achievement. And it was sort of the same thing when I was approaching you, because it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't like me and Chloe just met. I was intentionally doing a lot of personal work and personal growth work. Obviously, I have set the standard community, and I know exactly what I wanted in a woman. And I was like, I was essentially interviewing people. I would talk to them on Instagram. I was showing up on social media.
When you tell this, I low-key don't like it, because it sounds like you literally were job interviewing me, and he literally did. But it sounds so much worse when you say it than it actually was. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, well, I think
It's when you retell the story, it sounds like you were freaking interviewing 50 girls a day. That's he basically was. But
no, it really wasn't that many. It was just a few.
Only 25.
Yeah, only 25. But no, so because I was searching for the one, and it took me a year and a half.
I was not.
Yeah. So it took me 2 years as the guy, and I think we take responsibility in that. And I knew for sure that hey, if I want to find the partner, I was trying all the dating apps. I didn't mind them, but I feel like you have to go through search thousands of people before you find the one.
And I hate dating apps too.
Yeah. And then on social media, I think it's a lot more authentic if you are showing yourself on that. So I gained the skills and the confidence to show up as myself on social media and on a podcast. I know exactly what I wanted, and I put it out there. And it was interesting that you saw my podcast beforehand, because then when I started reaching out, because I like the look of this girl and I like how much she talks, so hopefully we have good conversation.
She still hasn't shut up 3 years later.
Essentially, over doing all the work on myself and knowing exactly what you were, talking to you and over social media and Instagram, when we're talking back and forth, we're both leaving each other on red. She did it first, and then I did it back to her, being spiteful. And then...
That's a red flag.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it was. Well, I was like, no, screw you kind of thing. I was like, see how it goes. Because at the time I was working on boundaries. And then we jumped on for a phone call, and we just got along so well. And I was like, ooh, and you can tell when you meet
I feel
someone.
like when you skipped the part where we did speak a little, like eventually I stopped leaving him on red, and then eventually he replied to me, and then we were chatting a bit, and then you must have asked my number. I don't even remember that part.
Yeah, so I remember us talking on the phone and we just didn't stop. We were just like, usually my bedtime's like 8 p.m. and we were on till like 9:30, like getting close to 10 o'clock some nights, just talking on the phone because we love talking about like whatever we're talking about so much. Then we met in person. We had that chemistry, and yes, we kissed on the first date. So, and like the whole time I was hanging out with you, I was like, I just want to kiss this girl. So there's like passion and chemistry straight from the start. But that was, from my perception as to how we met as a guy, is like I knew exactly what I wanted because I'd worked on myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people think that, or how, you know, and I get asked it all the time too. It's like, how do you find your person, this and that? But similarly to, as you said, I got quite lucky with you because you knew exactly what you wanted, whereas I knew partially what I wanted, but you just confirmed a lot for me. Whereas I actually wasn't, I was over, man, where I was like, we clicked really fast, but in my head I was like, oh, it's just another date. I'm going to get there and he's going to be another loser, another guy who thinks that I'm just like literally, oh my God, like every guy I saw before Corey was like, oh, you having fun with your little Instagram job? Like whatever. And I was like, here's another one. So I literally went in with no high hopes at all. And then it's been years later and we're still together. So
do you feel like though in your position, being a woman though, it's like there was a part of you that was open for a relationship?
100%. I wouldn't have gone on a date if I didn't want to. Like I wanted a relationship. I just had been let down so many times in my experience with dating apps with different guys. And also I take responsibility for that because I was also choosing not the right people either.
Yeah.
Like that's my own fault.
Yeah. And one thing that attracted me to you as well was you were literally living your best life. Like you were doing exactly what you wanted to do, what you loved, and you were hustling for it. And I was like, because I wanted a partner who, when I think about it, I was like, oh, they're doing personal development. They know their stuff. They, you know, have their own business, so they know what it's like. I didn't want someone who's crazy amounts of, you know, success in business, like anyone like absolutely nuts. Because I was like, how are they going to?
Fucking rude.
I was like, how are they going to have time? You know what I mean? So I didn't want someone who's like, because if they're on the come up like that.
I'm not crazy successful. Is
But no, you had your own business. You were hustling really hard, and your heart was in it. And I could see that through your content. And I was like, oh, this girl's going to get me. So.
And I got him, guys.
Yeah, right.
First date, 12 hours long. I got him.
Yeah. So I think like answering that question, how we met, because I'm just presuming people like, well, what do I need to do to meet someone? And it was like, we both were working on ourselves and we both were committed to like our values, which is growth, status, finance, freedom, health. And we all worked on those. So those just like worked really well for us.
And I think also I was really open at the beginning and the amount of healing that I'd done, but also the amount of healing that I still had to go. And I think that was very powerful from the beginning because that wants me to like bring me to the next question. And we've never answered this question or been asked this question. And now I'm so curious on what your answer is because low-key I'm like, where is it? Were there any red flags, worries or doubts you had with each other at the beginning?
I love this.
Mine, I think that I thought was a red flag is because Corey, for some people that aren't integrated and aren't really comfortable in themselves, can sometimes come across as really arrogant. And he's not arrogant at all. He's just very, very confident and self-assured. But I think that there was a part of me at the beginning where because I didn't know him, there was like part of me that was a little bit unsure. So there was like small things that he would say or that he would do that I was like, is that? Because I had dated guys with big personalities prior, but they were all like insecure little boys. Whereas like I'm dating a guy that with a big personality that was also a really secure man. So I was just like a little bit unsure. And then I feel like there was another red flag. I don't remember. I don't think it was a red flag. Like, what are you going to say? You're looking at me with that face. I'm like, oh my God.
No.
I'm scared what he's going to say.
No, it's nothing. It's funny because I get that a lot. In terms of personality.
Yeah, but I get it too.
Yeah, we both get it.
Yeah.
And like some feedback that I get from friends or people that invest in the community is like, I've seen your content, Corey, and I think, fuck this guy for all the things that he's doing and how he shows up. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, whatever slice of the pie that Corey's had, I want a slice of that too.
But I get that too on a very regular basis. People DM me being like, hey, I just need to let you know I like hated you but then I couldn't stop watching all of your content and coming back and then wondering why I wanted to buy from you. And then I realized it was a me problem, not a you problem. And so it's like, I think that we find comfort in each other in that though, of like both of us have been extremely misunderstood in our bigness and our confident personalities and we are just both loud people in general. So I think we probably find comfort in in each other in that too.
Yeah, we'll accept each other for it.
100%.
And it's not like there's many other people that I have met that's been able to hold me in my bigness. So, and the confidence and the self-insurance, because anyone who is slightly insecure is going to feel insecure about your strengths.
1,000%.
So,
especially like being able to hold someone in a romantic relationship in that standpoint.
yeah. And I can speak a lot to the red flag thing as well, because part of one of the exercises that we do in Set the Standard is manifest your dream partner. And I'm you got to do practice what you preach. So I remember going through and like writing a list of red flags that I would like my partner to have.
That gives me the creeps.
Right? Of like, what are the weaknesses in the red flag? So when you started saying things to me that I was like, you know, for example, a red flag may be like a bad relationship with one parent per se.
Daddy issues,
right?
one-on-one.
And for me, I was like, well, I don't mind if that happens because I wrote that down as a weakness, because I feel like my masculinity is strong enough to be able to compensate for that. So when I asked you questions, I intentionally wanted to know what the red flags were so that in our relationship, I wasn't going to have any surprises. And because we don't have any surprises, now we don't have the, like, especially if we get into an argument or something comes up and it triggers one of us, like that for me is already known. Like I know that that was going to be there and I know why, and I've committed to this. So now I'm not worried or freaking out about, is this relationship actually going to work? Yeah. This is a problem. I chose this problem and we have to work on it together as a team to overcome it.
1,000%. But that's also because we were both committed to our own self-development, our own self-growth prior to meeting each other. You were being that little bit older than me. I feel like that little bit further ahead than me. But we both like all the true colors and all the honesty was on the table within the first couple of dates. So exactly that. And I think like, yeah, it's like with a red flag, like if there was actually any quote unquote red flags, like we wouldn't have dated each other. You know what I mean? Like there's the funny little bits and bobs and the things you question in each other. But if like my quote unquote daddy issues had actually been a red flag for you, like you wouldn't have just kept seeing me. Like a year and a half into our relationship, I was moving house and I found a journal where I was manifesting my dream partner, and every single freaking thing on that list is him. And I remember just being like, oh my God. So even before we dated, I hadn't been intentional necessarily about like, oh, does he tick all my boxes? We vibed, we chatted really well. I was like, yeah, let's just see what happens. But so funny, like even down to like celebrates me in all of my successes and in my bigness and the, you know, and wants money as much as I do. Like I was so specific and I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, wild.
We love money.
We do love money. It gives us choices. It gives us freedom. Okay. How long were you dating and were you exclusively dating each other before making it official? We like dated for like 3 months because we met at like the end of November and then he asked me to be his girlfriend. So cute. At the end of January, the following January. So, and yes, we were exclusively seeing each other.
Were you? No.
Like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't know the answer to this. Yes, we were. And I feel like we made that pretty clear from the, like, I don't think we had to, like it was kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Because once we started hanging out, we were like, this is fucking fun. Let's keep doing it.
I also got insecure about it because I had some traumas and stuff. And at one stage, like during our relationship, I had to ask, I was like, okay, so when we started dating, did you like hook up with anyone else?
Oh, I don't remember you asking me that.
Yeah, I asked you that question. And I was like, you know, what was a go? Because I had was feeling insecure about something because it's happened with past traumas. And I was like, feel comfortable enough and confident enough to ask you for that reassurance, even if the fear was, oh, I'm going to make myself look weak or like lose control or whatever it is. And I remember being like, okay, I got to ask this.
Whereas in my perspective, it's kind of hot because you're like, were you seeing anyone else? Like it's a little hint of like, if you are, I'm going to be a bit upset about it. I'm like, that's sexy. That's what I like.
Well, yeah, that's what I really like the quote, 100% commitment's a breeze, 99% commitment's a bitch.
Yeah.
So if you're going to, like, for myself, if your intention is to find a partner and you want to lock down on one, when you start seeing someone, just see that person.
Yeah.
If your intention, because you don't want to get later on, and if it is an issue, because some of my friends and some people, that's not an issue. If it's like, oh, we're seeing each other, like that's completely not an issue and I have no emotional feelings about it. But I know for me, I'd get triggered at that. If I was like, we're seeing each other and...
Yeah, I do think it depends on the person because I personally, like if we started seeing each other, went on a couple dates and it was going as well as it would, I genuinely would not have had the capacity to date anyone else. Like I'm like, I can't even in my brain think about like one in my schedule, where the freaking hell would I put another person versus two. Like I feel like I'm just someone that when I have that commitment, and I do feel like it's different for girls or guys, when I'm committed, even committed to the seeing where it goes, that's enough for me. Whereas I do feel like some people can see multiple people at once. And like, this is reminder for even the girls, but also the guys. If that's a boundary for you, like, don't apologize for that. I feel like I've worked with a lot of women who feel guilty for even at the start of like only wanting to see someone that is only seeing one person. And I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah. It's like, if you're seeing someone that's seeing multiple people, that's fine. That's just probably not your type of person, and there's nothing wrong with that.
What are the challenges that you see in regards to two couples who both own businesses?
Yeah.
And like in regards to me and you, like we both own businesses. So what are the challenges that you see in the relationship and in business that comes from dating someone and having your own business and they own their own business?
I feel like 9 times out of 10, if we really let ourselves, all we would talk about is our businesses, because we love them. So I think that and also we both also work from home. So we live together, we go to the same gym, we work from home. Like we spend, which I'm actually surprised we haven't killed each other yet.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we spend so much time together. And I feel like, if we don't pull ourselves up on it, we would probably work from like the minute we finish at the gym to the moment we go to bed. And like Corey would just be like eating and working at the same time, doing 50 meetings a day. And then at the same time, like the communication and then the lack of presence and quality time that we would spend. I feel like I hear that, and then us personally is probably what we experience the most, which I feel like because we have honest communication, it's not really that big of an issue. It's just us bringing it to light of like, hey, you've been working a lot. I need presence. I need a date. I need this. And then it's fine.
Yeah. But also as well, like, yeah, we do go to the same gym, but you group fitness every morning. Yeah. You have your own PT.
I mean, compared to most couples, we glue to the hip.
Yeah, true. But most of the times, like when I go to the gym, you're not at the gym.
Hell no, I'm going to spend some time by myself. Yeah. Drink my iced latte, go for a walk.
So yeah, most of the time the mornings I spend are completely for myself. But I think, and then like we work and then we have the work day and then usually lunch, it's nice. We have like a lunch or just talk together for a little bit in between work, moving. And then in the afternoon when we finish, we try to have like dinner together depending on what our eating schedules are. And then we chat and go to bed. So, and then weekends is when we really spend like quality time because most of the time in the week we're like actually hustling and I'm full hustle.
But I feel like we have to be intentional with that though, because when I started seeing you, you were working on the weekends. Like Saturday, you would go to the gym, train legs in the morning, come home, work the rest of the day. And I feel like as we got more, feels like another lifetime ago, but as we have been more committed and more intentional with our relationship, like I probably would struggle if you did that now. And to be fair, like I think I still worked, when we were first seeing each other, I was living in Brisbane and I still was working on a Saturday as well. So I think there's a level where it's like, it changes with the season too. Yeah. And it's like, I also think that there's this, I remember someone DM me once being like, you promote hustle culture, nah. And it's also this level where it's like, you've just got, I don't believe that there's a right or wrong way to do any relationship whatsoever. It's just, does it work for the two of us? Can we still be the best humans possible? Can we still show up in all the things that we love? And beauty of it is like, and again, why we're in a relationship, we have the same hobbies.
Yeah.
We love moving, we love going to get coffee, we love restaurants, etc. So it's like, we value the same things. So the things that we decide to do in our everyday life are very, very similar. So I think that makes it easier as well.
Yes. And both being business owners, here's some of the dark sides. And it's a challenge I find. Addiction to phone. Straight up. There's like an addiction to phone.
To my hand.
It is also trying to talk about anything other than business. Yeah. Right. That's also being able to celebrate each other and not get jealous, because we went through that at the start of the relationship a couple of times.
Did we?
Yeah, well, I did a bit, remember?
Oh, yeah, but I didn't.
At the start, like we were like kind of...
The only time I get jealous is when his business gets more attention than I do, which is most of the time.
Well, and it was as well as like, and it was also attention on the individual, because our business is a very personal brand as well. So I remember like both of us there was like jealousy that come around for like either one person like winning or like getting all the attention, especially within the relationship. It's like, oh man, it's all been attention on you for like 3-4 months now. Like, this is annoying. When do I get attention? And so that's like the three things that I think is like a comparison to each other, scrolling on the phone, and then only talking about business. And they're like sort of the dark side. And we've extensively had some awesome conversations around and working together on being able to combat those. So like we have like boundaries and rules, and we call each other out and hold each other accountable, especially for being on each other's phone. And if someone's frustrated for being on their phone, it's like we don't judge that person, and it's like, okay, we get it. You have like a frustration. I've been on my phone. Here comes the addiction because posting all the time.
And what's funny is like it genuinely comes out of love, because we love working so much and we love what we do. It's like, oh, I'll just quickly do this, and I'll quickly reply to this, and I'll quickly show up this, and I'll quickly make this. And it's like, because it's just there and so attached to your hand, it genuinely is coming out of a place of want and desire. But yeah, if you don't really stay on top of it, it becomes a really big problem.
Yeah. So we ask each other, like, can you be present, please?
Yeah.
Can you put that away?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that we have in the person. Like, oh shit, like I didn't even realize I wasn't even being present just then. So we hold each other accountable for that, because you can shame someone or you can keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we've got to keep each other accountable.
And me coming to him or him coming to me being like, all you do is go on your phone, that literally just, that's blame, and that literally makes the other person want to shut down so hard. Whereas if you're like, hey, I just love you and I want to spend time with you, can you please put your phone down and do it later? It's like, yeah, of course, no worries. So it's also the way in which we communicate it to each other as well.
And we're not perfect. Like, we still get that wrong.
Hell no.
Regularly. Like, but we always bring it back to like, okay.
Yeah.
We wanted presence, whatever it is.
And it's bringing it back to we're continuously working on ourselves, each other, our businesses, etc. I think that a lot of people get it wrong in any area of their life, assuming, and something that I had a conversation with a client actually, and something that Corey very much taught me is like never ever saying, oh, I won't do that again, because like you freaking will. You will do it again. And something that I have taught a lot of my clients now moving forward is like never ever make that promise, because one, that's unfair to yourself, because when you do it again, you're going to shame yourself. But then two, it's unfair to promise something like that to your partner. And it's like really acknowledging, hey, we're both human in this. We're probably going to get it wrong again, but I'm going to try my best. And I think that's powerful too.
Yeah. And Chloe's really good as well at bringing our conversation when we talk about business. Hey, we need to talk about something other than business.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I have strong boundaries around that, because I'm like, we're eating dinner. I don't want to talk about a new website and a sales funnel. I really don't give a fuck. But it took me a while to want to learn how to ask for that, because part of me is like, well, I love him and I want to celebrate him and I want to support him in that. But it's more just like, or even I did it yesterday when he wanted to show me something, and I had asked him prior. I was like, I just want 5 minutes of like presence, and like we're having a hug, and he's like, oh, do you want to see this? And I'm like, yup. And then I was like, no, I asked for 5 minutes of presence. Like I want that hug. So it's you have to stand true, both of you, in whatever boundaries that you have, and the other person being respectful of it too.
Yeah. And then the comparison thing, I feel, makes unconscious anchors that bring you down, that prevent you from soaring, whether it be in business, attention, or whatever it is.
I feel like we're super solid with it now though. Whereas I actually forgot about, like when you're saying about that jealous thing, I'm like, I forgot, that was ages ago. Like I literally forgot. But that was also, I think as well, we came into a relationship where everything was new. Like my relationship with commitment in general was brand new. You being so committed to me from the front and like being so open and vulnerable, that's new. We both had brand new businesses. You had just moved. Like there was so much new. So I feel like for us two, there was so much that's heightened.
Yeah.
Whereas now, because we are in such a routine, we've been here for the last couple of years, etc., it makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we've really ground down the grit, so it's smooth now in regards to comparison. However, what we haven't had a decent trigger in a while, so we've been pretty consistent with business and consistent with our personal growth. But that's also
hats off to, I have a coach, I had an energy healer, we have fitness coaches. Like we very much value working on ourselves to make sure that things like that, because they're going to come up, like we said before, inevitably you're a human, but that we can minimize them coming up for us to butt heads with each other, but then also having the skills to be able to communicate them too.
Yeah, exactly. And then, because in the future, it's like if someone blows up financially or has a really good opportunity, like I was jealous when she went to Dubai without me. I was like, oh, I really want to go to Dubai with you. like this,
yeah, and that was the only thing that was extremely hard to hold.
Yeah.
Because, can I be honest about it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like, we haven't talked about this before.
I'm completely transparent.
In the moment, he couldn't be happy for me. And that was really hard, because I had dealt with in my life, friends being very jealous of me, family even being jealous of me. And again, what we spoke about at the beginning, people not being able to hold me in my bigness. And so, it was an unconscious expectation, but the expectation I had of him was, oh my God, I've got this opportunity. And by the way, it was 2 weeks prior. I go, babe, I've decided I'm going to Dubai in 2 weeks. Like it was so quick, whatever. And I was like, told him, and he was like, oh. And that fucking crushed me from the inside out. So I was like, this, in my head, I was like, this motherfucker was supposed to be happy for me and he's not happy for me. And now I'm upset, and now maybe. And then I did it, which is wrong. I admit that it was wrong. But then in my head, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't go. Was this dumb? Because it was extremely large financial investment, the largest financial investment I have ever made. And yeah, that really rocked me for a bit, but we were able to, and what's powerful, he took responsibility for that. You know, you were like, oh, I acknowledge it. Yeah, it did trigger me a bit because that's something that I have wanted to do and it's a really good opportunity. And like, I love you and I'm celebrating you.
Wasn't that one the thing that was for me, which let me down, was I was like, oh, I'm just not spending 2 weeks with Chloe. I was like, that's how annoying. I was like, because quality time's my favorite thing. I'm like, I want to spend time with you. So that was the thing that triggered me.
Yeah.
It's not so much the doing
that
it.
I'm a baller.
Doing it without me. And I was like, yeah, I was a little bit triggered because I planned like a Dubai trip and I was like, oh, now you're planning that like before me and I wanted to go. Yeah. I was like, oh, I feel like you're taking that away from me a little bit. Yeah. But we were honest with that conversation and like got through it. Really quickly.
Well, and honestly, it literally was like within the afternoon, he had come to me, been honest about it. We communicated it and then the conversation was over. Like it actually wasn't a problem. And something that Corey very much taught me too was the act of immediate forgiveness. And if I had heard someone say this before, I would have been like, oh my God, that's so lame. You can't forgive someone straight away. But the way that, we have been able to, and even just using that as the example, get over that so quickly, it's like, oh, it's okay. Like, I love you and I forgive you. I can still feel upset about it, but it's going to make him feel a lot better knowing that I actually do forgive him, because it's very easy to be spiteful at someone and be like, you weren't happy for me. And in the past, I 100% would have been that girl.
Yeah.
You weren't happy for me, fuck you, I'm going to go do and not actually maybe verbally, but in my head, I would have felt that way towards him. And then again, that just causes this like unnecessary friction in our relationship for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Whereas in the afternoon, it was done.
And forgiveness is a choice. And if you're dedicated to being a leader, so you have to actively make sure that you're choosing that. Next question.
Okay. Your daily routine, including wake and sleep times when you schedule relationship growth.
Hang on a minute. I need
Your daily routine, including waking up and sleeping times, and then when we schedule in relationship growth.
Can I just answer this one really quickly and get on to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. We get up 5:15. We go to the gym. We do exercise. We get home. We start work at about 7:30, 8 o'clock.
We get coffee at 7 a.m. first.
And then we go to bed at 7:38.
Yeah, we're like, I'm not even kidding, asleep by 8 o'clock. Like yesterday it was 7:38. I was like, good night, rolled over.
Most of the time during the day, we're working, but we also make time to have fun, see our friends, or if we feel like doing anything that we need to do, we do that during the day. Especially one of the beauties of having your own business, which is to support your lifestyle, because I love business and all I want to do is work, but every now and then I'm like, I need to pull my hair out and I need to do something fun. We need to go somewhere. It's in the middle of the day. I'm like, I am so unproductive. Let's go watch June.
Yeah, we literally were like, it was literally like 2 p.m. and he's like, I'm getting nothing done. And we were just in the same mood that day. And I was like, me too. And then we literally like, let's book the movies. We just left. And that is the beauty of us having that time. So it's like, maybe it's not ideal for us to fit in relationship growth, but we can do it at 1 p.m. after lunch. We can do it at 7 p.m. in bed at night. Like, I actually feel like we don't schedule in the relationship growth anymore. We used to.
Yeah, well, we're together all the time. We're pretty intentional with it.
Yeah, we are.
So I feel like that is the example of going to the movies in the middle of the day is we both don't like doing unproductive work. And the second we're feeling unproductive,
Which is actually very rare too.
We take seriously our energy shift and we're like, we've got to shift energy up.
Yeah.
Today, this afternoon, because we're like, oh, we've been working all weekend. We've been working a few days. We need to take a few hours. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on this hustle train and just attract stress. So let's get out of this, do something, regulate our nervous systems, come back fresh at another time. And then that's when we're always like, oh, because I did this thing. Chloe's like, I said like 300 girls buy this thing. Whoa.
Love changing girls' lives. I also think as well, to be real frank, our routine changes every single day. Is that off?
Yeah. Our routine does not change every day.
Well, mine does.
Yours does. Mine does not.
But also, you never really have set stuff in your day, do you?
My routine is so
not one of the same days. I honestly wake up, and it's again, I have the privilege to. I've worked for myself for going on, it'll be 4 years now this year, and I think, or maybe three, and
definitely 4, because you worked for a year by yourself before you met me. It's 4 years now.
I only became self-employed in the August, and we started dating in the November.
Yeah, but you'd be working for yourself before that. Like you, it's closer to 4 years than 3.
Anyway. Like I now have the privilege to kind of just work around. Like I have one-on-one clients and things like that, but I have the privilege to really work around those. So, ways to deal with conflict when it comes to family and different views.
I don't feel like we have too much conflict there, to be honest.
Yeah, but they've asked us to.
Oh, I know one thing. Yeah, I know. Conflict. Throwing out of the bus a little bit.
Oh my God, I'm like...
Look how nervous you get.
Yeah, I am. I'm like, what are you going to say?
Exposed Chloe's deepest fear. No. This is one. I am myself 24/7. And I just have the most generous interpretation that people can hold me in my bigness. And even around Chloe's family, I do not adjust myself
He does not.
to her family. I'll treat them the same way I treat her, the same way I treat my
It's
friends.
high key amazing.
But also,
It triggered me at the start a lot.
because I remember at one stage your mum could not make a decision about a piece of fish. And I was like,
My mom is one of the most indecisive
See?
people.
I need to make a decision. Would you like salmon or barramundi? And she's like, whatever you choose. And I was like, I can't do this as a cook, as a chef, because I love cooking. I was like, Stacey, salmon or barramundi? Everyone's in the room. I was like, Stacey, pick one. Barramundi or
He did.
salmon. And she's like, darling, I'm like, Stacey, barramundi or salmon. Anyway, it went on for a while and Chloe afterwards was just like, never ever talk to my
I literally was like, if you ever speak to anyone in my family like that again, I will leave you, and I have no problems doing so. And I literally ripped him a new one. However, yes, that was now upon acknowledgement, he would do that to me. To any single person. If you're a stranger and if you come as our new friend to our house, he's doing that to you too. But I just, because part of me used to tread on eggshells around, and not even in like a, I don't want to say it's in a negative way, around other people's families, making sure that I was being, I don't even say it was different. Just being mindful of my reactions towards people and things like that. And he wasn't. He highlighted to me potentially where I wasn't doing that also, which is why it triggered me so much too.
Yeah.
And he wasn't rude. This is the thing, like you are direct, but you're not rude. But I immediately was just like, I was like putting devil horns above his ears, and I was like, this man is ruining my life.
Yeah. But in the meantime,
funny.
what was actually happening, like from my point of view, is I'm actually developing a deeper relationship with Stacey.
Yeah.
Knowing that we can
And she loves you so much.
I love your mum as well. Like she's the best. And like being able to just communicate like that with each other actually makes people closer together because they understand who they are.
It's honesty too.
And then as well, I have a family member as well that would trigger Chloe. And with the family conflict,
You're not going to be honest about this story,
I take responsibility for educating like one of my family members and being like, okay, some of the things that you say and what you do is triggering for anyone, and it's more triggering for Chloe because she's my partner. She's going
It's
to
also
read.
directed at me sometimes.
Yeah. So what I do is with the person is I just tell them, I'm like, this thing's here and it's not appropriate for that reason, and this thing's because someone may feel like this.
That caught me off guard as well. I almost expected when it happened the first time for Corey just to let it and I was prepared for him to just ignore it. And he called the person out literally in the moment. It was like, oi, this is, he didn't say oi, but he's like, this is not okay. And I was just like, because I also grew up in a family where it's like, oh, we'll just sweep everything under the rug and conflict is a bad thing, right? And it's like, but he proved to me in that moment that it actually didn't need to be a bad thing. He was standing up for me in that moment, being like, please don't speak to my partner that way or whatever else happened. And it was an immediate, oh yeah, you're right, so sorry, end of story in 2.5 seconds. And I was like, oh, it gets to be this easy.
Yeah.
But part of me had experienced it where, but then because I'd been in situations where unconscious resentment builds and then there's anger, and then I probably would have been, if in another lifetime, I would have been angry at you for not standing up for me, but I wouldn't have had the ability to communicate that I wished he had stood up for me and all these things. So I think again, it's what you do really well is rewrite the story of what conflict actually has to look like, because so many people don't know how to do it at all, me included, until I met you. And people often think that it's really rude. And then I'm like, there is nothing rude about standing up for yourself or for people that you love.
Yeah, especially when you understand that people in general have a lot of unconscious either trauma or they're speaking unconsciously and they don't understand that they're projecting onto someone. And having those is such a good leadership and mindset skill anyway, but it's really tested in family. It's
100%.
full on.
You ever want to go on a personal development retreat, just go on a family holiday. That's all you freaking need.
Yeah. So essentially what happens in the situations where it happens and triggers someone else is the way to get out of it is by genuinely understanding and knowing someone so well. And I know my family members so well, and I explain if it's anything's happening or there's conflict, I'll sit down with my partner or the family member and I'll explain to them okay, this is what this person's like, this is this thing, this is some things that trigger them, or this is how you trigger them, or this is why they're triggered in general, and this is why they're triggering you. We have those conversations and then we just create an open thread and a communication around it. Instead of putting shame on someone or making them feel guilty, instead what we do is we communicate in regards to respect, and by having that communication thread open,
Yes.
we can talk about it all the time.
I also want to almost bite back a little bit there because that has worked for you and your family because your family has been open to it. And this is where the line is drawn, where I believe that you have the ability to stand up for yourself. You have the ability to draw boundaries, but I have drawn boundaries in my own family that have been disrespectfully crossed multiple times. And I actually personally don't believe then when things like that happen that you have to be, or you even have to tolerate that. Like, I really do believe that you get to put your foot down and be like, this is not okay. I have asked multiple times for this not to happen, etc. And you actually just get to close that door. So I think there's a level where you get to really try to allow that to happen in your family relationships, but not every single person's family is going to be like that.
Oh, definitely. Because there's always going to be a line there.
Absolutely.
And whenever there's a certain line that needs to be crossed, then it needs to be let go. Yeah. There's no point being, if it happened in my family and the lines kept getting crossed continuously, then I'd be like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Straight up. So because we know some people's families are hectic.
It's interesting too, because it's like, you know, most people would never tolerate behavior from friends, from work colleagues, etc. Yet we do tolerate behavior like that so much from family. And it's like, you actually don't have to do that, especially once you become an adult. Like, that's why I'm so big on you choosing your own friends, because you can't choose your family. So choose really good friends.
Yes. I'm pretty good at putting boundaries in my family though.
You're savage.
Savage.
Yeah, but Corey's also happy to push. You like to poke the bear is the best way.
I have the most generous interpretation that everyone is stronger emotionally and mentally than what they think. So, which is just being really intentionally disagreeable and just speaking your truth all the time demands respect from other people. And it also makes you, stronger as a person, sharpens your sword.
1000%.
Oh, this is what we do and set the standard. Let's go.
Your biggest challenge as a couple and how you overcame it. Nothing came to mind the first time I read that question.
I'll say, well, maybe one challenge was a couple of times where Chloe doubted that the relationship was going to work or continue. Yes, and Phil had to have like ego purge, like full on.
Yeah, I feel like that came up like two big times.
Yeah.
Where I was like...
Didn't feel safe.
No, but also that was, I understand that was me. I questioned the integrity of the relationship because I was fearful of commitment and I had never been able to rely on anyone before. And I really had my whole entire life. I've had myself and myself alone to rely on. So I don't think there's enough conversations around if that's been you. And then getting to a point where to be in a relationship and a proper relationship where there's complete trust, complete commitment, complete everything. When you want to do the marriage, you want to do the kids, whatever it is that you want to do, you've got to fully surrender to that. And that, we could do a whole podcast on that in itself because that was so hard for me to do. And we hit some roadblocks too because it was very easy for me to just be like, or what I thought, I don't think that this is for me. Maybe I'm not really as in love as I thought, all these things, which I actually knew were bullshit deep down. But it was easy for me to think that it was to look at I am actually just so scared to rely on someone that could hurt me. I had daddy issues. I've been cheated on lots of times. I had some things happen when I was a kid that made me not be able to trust men and all these things. So I had such a fear of men in general. Then I've got someone that was just standing there with his arms wide open, let's go. And I'm like, ah! So I feel like you having to hold space for that a lot was very hard too.
You just didn't feel safe.
100%.
And I knew that as a guy through the process. Safe right now.
But also, that's hats off to you for doing a lot of personal development work because I don't know many men that would have been able to see that and hold me in that for that period of time and love me through it, not judge me for it.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, you didn't judge me for it. Nothing. You were like, I'm here for you and I love you and whatever. Whereas I think that any of my exes or previously in the past, most people would have run away from that.
Yeah, so definitely. And so that's one of the things.
Definitely. Yes, Chloe, you would have been single.
No, so I think I meant more definitely as a man, it's just understanding that most women going through, their process, if you really deeply rootedly, when it finally clicks in your brain that, okay, the only thing that whenever we're going through something, most of the time is when she's not feeling safe. So you have to let her know that she's actually safe. And that's usually done through action. It's holding space. It's not you freaking out because the second you freak out or get worried about anything, she's like, oh my God, I knew it was right. It's confirming all of my beliefs in the meantime. So,
not that they're correct necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. It's confirming my
stories
by my beliefs that I'm not safe, which then it's I need to run away from the relationship. The other thing I think that's a huge challenge is that being two business owners who create content is everything is content. And it comes back to the phone thing again.
Even us right now.
I'm not kidding. And at all. That's not throwing you. Chloe is making content from the minute she wakes up to the minute she goes to bed. It was like literally
You're just going to like rip on me just then, which is why I was like, don't you criticize me right now.
See, it's immediately she wasn't feeling safe. And now she realizes she's safe and she feels better. So, so even like last night, it was like 10 to 8. And I was just like doing some like typing on my computer because at night I'm just doing some task at the moment before I go to bed. And then at 8 o'clock, things down. We go to sleep. We're reading or I'm listening to an audiobook and Chloe's reading before bed. And literally she pulls out her phone at 7:50 to record us in bed. And I was like, babe, are you seriously making content now? She's like, yeah, you got your computer up. We've got like 10 minutes till bedtime. And I'm like, oh my God. Every time we go to a cafe, it's creating content. And sometimes it's me. I want to be creating content. Can you take a photo of me?
I was like, don't just throw me under the bus. This is YouTube. We
no,
got like 1, 2, 3. There's so many cameras sitting here right now as well.
Yeah. So just like we're always making content and it is then me talk, like if it's me, it's asking about business, making content. Can you take a photo? Can you film me this? And then we're arguing about the filming because we're not getting it right or whatever it is. So it's like non-stop. Like when people, if anyone here is listening to this and they're like, oh, I want to be sort of like Chloe and Corey in regards to content creation and business, or the other side to that coin is like you're always filming everything and creating and writing. You love it.
Thing. It's like I have loved it since I started. So for me, like that's why when you Corey's like everything's content. I'm like, it's not hard for me to whip out my phone, start saying some stuff, put it down, take a bit. Like to me, I'm like, it's part of our job. Full stop. I have no dramas with that. And yeah, you're right though. People think, oh, that looks like such a good job. I'm like, do you want to have your phone attached to your hand 24/7? And there's so many people that will say, oh, you're not on your phone 24/7. I'm like,
you're on your phone 24/7.
Yeah, like I'm like, if you're gonna scale your business and build it, and you want to like be ahead of the game, I would argue that you've got to be
everything,
which is controversial.
Which is great because I learned a lot from Chloe for that in regards to business and using it and all the techniques and stuff. So like we learn heaps in terms of whipping our camera out, but that's what arises. A lot of arguments, there's a lot of non-presence and we're holding each other accountable to not be present.
But I also think that's just that we've just had to get into the groove, especially since we moved into our new house. Yeah. Like we've gotten into the groove around each other and things like that. And yeah, it's just us about working, okay, well, what can we tolerate? What do we not tolerate? Where do we need to draw the line, etc.
Yeah, and it works. It's just a lot of commitment. And from a guy's point of view, like from my point of view as also a content creator, like I just got to know that and see that within regards to you, and then having healthy conversation to keep each other accountable rather than shame each other really works. Yeah. Next question.
I have to go have a call now.
Oh, do you? Okay, yeah. One more question. We'll wrap it up. Real quick one.
The first few struggles moving in together, how we argue.
How we argue is good.
How we argue.
So we give 2 minutes on this, guys, and then we are wrapping it up. So our argument, I would say, is really healthy 60% of the time. 40% of the time it isn't. And I'm just going to blame Chloe for the other 40%.
When you put two extremely stubborn, emotionally aware, high energy people in a relationship, this is something I talked about on my Instagram story recently. People are like, whoa, you guys argue? I'm like,
heaps.
Yes. Yeah, and it's like, it's not necessarily like they're not always big. Like we just are both very strong in our opinions, in the way that we like to do things. So there was bound to be conflict, even when there's actually not something to argue about, just because we like things done a certain way. And I think people make arguing wrong. And I'm like, it's just how you argue that can be wrong. I don't think disagreeing is wrong.
Yeah, our friends say to us, they're like, yeah, but you guys like arguing. And we're like, we actually don't. But we do. We argue all the time. And sometimes it blows up and it's not healthy. Like we're back and forth at each other, just going to one extreme and it's like, oh, this is not good. Other times it's the most healthiest, conscious thing that you've ever seen.
But also I'm really off the back end of that. I'm so proud of us for that because we have had to work. Like this is probably the only thing I reckon that we've had to work on so much.
Yeah, well, I think
so much.
It's like, show me how you argue and I'll show you literally the success that you're going to have. Because within
conflict resolution.
It is. And with no matter what you're doing or where you are, depending, like, because some people as well, they're like, oh, we don't argue. And I'm like, okay, have fun shoving everything under the rug then. You know what I mean? And just because we wear our hearts on our sleeves means that whatever we do is going to arise at some point and we've got to figure it out. So most of the time, all of our arguments, and we know this for a fact, like 110% for sure, every argument we have comes from some deep-rooted trauma that we've got. And it has nothing to do with each other. No. The other person has only been a mirror to show the other person you've got some healing to do. So, and it gets really triggering because just as an example, like recently, at some moments in our arguing, Chloe's been a little bit reactive and we'll try to bring that up sometimes, like in a reactive moment. We're like, okay, we can't talk about that in a reactive moment.
Well, it's like, it's like the perfect example is like when you're heated as a woman and then someone's like, calm down, and you're like, don't tell me to calm down. Like, that's the best example that I can give.
Yeah. And like this is your trauma speaking. You're like, no, it's not. And we sort of go to them, we're like, okay. And then even if it does get heated at the time, we're like, okay, we need to come back and actually talk about this and talk about it properly, because sometimes it's me as well. So something will happen and then I'll get super frustrated, or I'm more likely to shut off and avoid and not talk to Chloe instead. And then Chloe sort of brings out like, we need to talk about this. And then eventually I'm like, ugh, and then we have a really good conscious conversation. We cuddle, we kiss, we feel lots of emotions. We have really good sex, and that helps, bring everything together. So, and it's definitely a way of showing up how well that you guys can resolve your conflict. It creates a lot of passion in the bedroom, which is good.
And my only piece to that as well is it's like learning, like arguing is a skill and you've got to learn how to argue. And I think that took me a little bit too long to learn. Like, I think if I'd known that was a skill that I could learn, I probably would have been more open to arguing at the start, because it's something that we're still perfecting. And I don't think that we'll ever get it perfect, because it's just the art of being a human being.
Yeah. And as you grow, there's more traumas and there's more things and blah, 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 blah. And then you'll realize how deep seated like traumas and stuff are. So it's just been we're 100% committed to each other within that, which feels really safe for her, feels really safe for me.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how we argue.
I love it.
Cool. Thank you everyone for listening. See you in the next one. Bye.
We appreciate you guys.